Hey guys, welcome back. This is Hallie at High Octane Cards with your preview for the 63rd annual Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500. So I have been getting that name right. I knew it had a very, very long name. I believe Quick Trip is a gas station or a travel plaza. I've seen them before only on advertisements and so forth, never seen one in person. I believe it may be a southeastern chain. I may have seen some when I went through Georgia and Florida there in 2015, but I really, really don't remember. So anyway, the race will be Sunday. I believe the start time is approximately 3 o'clock, give or take. That may be the air time. But as it goes, I'll give you the first 10 starters here. Row 1 is Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. Mind you, this is the metric qualifying system that NASCAR did come up with last summer. So row 1 is Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., who was last week's winner. Row 2 is Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski. So an all Penske row 2. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, row 3. And all Hendrick, row 3. And then row 4, Kevin Harvick, Christopher Bell. And row 5, William Byron, Ryan Blaney. So no real surprises in the top 10. Maybe the biggest surprise I'm going to go with probably just Christopher Bell from a lack of experience in the Cup Series, or just the top 3 NASCAR ranks overall. A little history about Atlanta. The first race was in 1960, won by Fireball Roberts. It was measured as a 1.5 mile track. Of course, it was a true oval. The straightaways were a quarter-mile long, the corners a half a mile long. In 1970, it was remeasured, I guess. I don't know if NASCAR changed the standards because the track really wasn't reconfigured, but it was labeled as 1.522 miles. That was my favorite. You watch races. Get on YouTube, watch the 1986 Motorcraft 500, 1987 Motorcraft 500, 1989 Atlanta Journal 500, 1990 Atlanta Journal 500, although the 89 and 90 were tragic races as there were incidents in them where there was loss of life. I'm trying to think of a couple of other ones that are in that generation, but they were very competitive races, even though each race may have only had 4 or 5 cars on the lead lap, something that would just, today's age, the media would go nuts, but they were competitive races, and the people that won those races weren't the most dominant car, so it made it a really, really interesting race. 1997, Rutan Smith and his group reconfigured the track. Of course, the name went from Atlanta International Raceway to Atlanta Motor Speedway as part of the Speedway Motorsports Inc. Marketing, the way that they market their tracks. It was reconfigured to a 1.540 quad oval. The front straightaway was flipped to the back straightaway. So what is now the back straightaway used to be the front straightaway, of course. Jeff Bodine has the track record in that first race on the new track, 197.478 for the pole. It has not been eclipsed since. So that was an incredible fast speed for cars back in 1997, and especially for Jeffrey Bodine because he was driving his own equipment, and he was not considered, in my opinion, a top-tier team at the time. This year, 2010 will mark 2020 will mark the first time. Let's try that again, guys. 2021. Looking at a 2020 box behind me over here. This year in 2021 marks the first time since 2010 that there will be 2 races at Atlanta Motor Speedway. We were talking about records there. The overall race record, the track record is in 1995 with Dale Earnhardt, 163.633, but that was on the old configuration, believe it or not. On the new configuration, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has the race record at 158.679 miles an hour set in 2004. And a lot of people, even though Atlanta is a 1.5 mile quad oval, a lot of people trap Atlanta in it's a 1.5 mile track. I don't like it. Well, mind you, Atlanta does have an abrasive surface like Darlington, so you're going to have tire fall off. Looking forward to that. There's going to be pit strategy involved, of course, with the stages, and I'm sure there's going to be competition caution, play around lap 25. So there's going to be an opportunity throughout the race. You don't want to see blown tires, but I can see a couple of the top guys really pressing the envelope and having tire failure, unfortunately. But I was looking at numbers since 1962. Atlanta only 5 times has the race, even the spring or fall, it doesn't matter. Only 5 times since 1962 has the Atlanta race had less than 10 lead changes. Less than 10 lead changes. So that's a pretty competitive track. Yeah, it's not Talladega of the days of the tandem drafting or the wicker bill on the roof, where you would have 70 or 80 lead changes. But it looks like just through the numbers, you're looking at anywhere from 16 to 24 lead changes, so it will be a pretty competitive race. Atlanta was also the host track of the final Cup Series race of the season from 1987 to 1998. Of course, it moved to Homestead for a number of years, except for 2001, when New Hampshire held that race. And then the last couple of years, well, last year, 2020, was the first year that the season finale was held at Phoenix. Let's look at some stats as far as starts and so forth. There are no drivers this weekend making any milestone starts. Of course, last weekend we talked about Kyle Busch and Kurt Busch both making career milestone starts. As far as Atlanta, the track itself goes, Richard Petty is the all-time start leader at 65 starts. Bill Elliott has 62, and Dave Marcus has 59. The all-time wins leader is Dale Earnhardt at 9 wins. Cale Yarborough has 7, and Bobby Labonte and Richard Petty are both tied at 6 wins apiece. But that's all time. Let's talk current drivers. Kevin Harvick leads current drivers with 30 career starts. Kurt Busch at 29 and Ryan Newman at 28. Expect to see that trend for most of the rest of the season, as those 3 drivers had their careers start in 2001, 2000, and 2000 respectively. So I see those 3 drivers, other than you start getting into tracks maybe like, I was going to say Kentucky, but they're not going to race there this year. Tracks like Homestead, they kind of came in because Homestead only has 1 race a year. Those guys were racing Homestead every year. So I could see maybe a Homestead, but we talked about that last week or a couple weeks ago. Now I'm kind of drawing a blank as to what tracks might be the ones where they will be lower on the list. So we'll just have to wait and see. As far as active winners, there's only 5 drivers, and I've found this outstanding that there's only 5 active drivers that have won a race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Kevin Harvick and Kurt Busch are tied with 3. Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski are tied with 2, and Denny Hamlin has 1. So 5 active drivers. There's 39 starting, so there's a good chance we can see a first-time Atlanta winner. Let's try that again. And just kind of a few oddball stats here that I want to throw at you guys. Ryan Newman has 28 starts with 0 wins. That's the most of any active driver. Eric Almarola has 10 starts with no top 5s of any active driver. And Michael McDowell has 10 starts with 0 top 10s, the most of any active driver. And Austin Dillon has 8 starts and has yet to lead a lap. That, again, is the most of any active driver. So just some numbers for you guys to think about when you're making your picks for your fantasy teams. And speaking of the fantasy teams, let's segue into my favorites, underdogs, and long shot picks. And again, these are guys that I think that can win the race, but I wanted to categorize them as such within those 3 brackets. So favorites, Harvick is, Las Vegas has pretty much said Harvick is the guy to pick to win, which I can agree to. Denny Hamlin, I think he's going to be very strong. He's a points leader. He's a perennial championship contender, always in that final race. Maybe this is the year that he, scores that win at the final race and gets that championship. But I think he'll be strong. Brad Keselowski and Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott only has 5 starts in Atlanta and has 4 top 10s. So these 4 guys, I think, are somebody that you want on your team for sure to help get you a lot of points. Your underdogs, again, I think these guys will be ones that are going to be solid in the race. They're going to be in that affordable salary level, and they're not going to be top 5 drivers necessarily, but they're going to be that 6 through 12 that's just going to get you a lot of points that you need. Eric Almarola, we did mention him as having no top 5s and 10 starts, but his season's starting to turn around, so I could see him having a strong run at Atlanta. Ryan Blaney, I pick him as an underdog just because he's been quiet this year. He had was leading going to the last corner of the Busch Clash, and him and Chase got together. But I think Ryan's just kind of being real quiet right now, not very dominant, not making a lot of noise. But I could see him definitely being top 5. Alex Bowman, who does not have a top 10 yet this year, kind of having a rough start to his season. When you start getting 5, 6, 7 races in, and you have a driver that's in the equipment that he's in, not having the numbers that he should be putting up, he's going to put up or shut up at some point, and I think this is the weekend he starts putting those numbers up on the board. And same goes for Matt DiBenedetto. He's my 4th pick in the underdogs category. I do see him. These guys are in equipment, and they have the talent. They're not going to be going 8 or 10 or 12 races without a top 10 or top 5. It's just not going to happen. So these two guys, I think, are going to turn their seasons around, as well as Almarola, and I think Blaney's just going to step it up a little bit as well. Long shots, again, these guys are ones that any given race they can win under any given circumstance. Again, I'm not going to pick the guys that are in those way, way, way back of the pack cars. I'm not going to pick on teams like Rick Ware Racing, because those guys could win a race under, any circumstance. Look at Justin Haley a couple years ago at Daytona, and if I remembered it, I'll mention that here in just a minute, because the Spire team did win at Daytona in 2019. But anyway, my log shots are Chris Buescher. Yes, he did win a stage at Homestead, but he's had a super quiet year. He's 16th in points right now. I just don't see him as a strong car. Roush just has not been up to par the last few years, so I consider Chris Buescher a bit of a long shot. Austin Dillon, he has yet to lead a lap in 8 career starts in Atlanta, so Austin is also a long shot pick for me. Michael McDowell, the Daytona 500 winner. Outside of the road courses and the super speedways, Michael's pretty much going to be a long shot. Maybe Bristol. He runs good at Bristol. I would consider him an underdog there versus a long shot. And then Bubba Wallace, I'll consider him a long shot. Bubba's never won a cup race. He's only got a couple of top 5 finishes. He is in what you could essentially call Joe Gibbs equipment, and they're just now starting to kind of turn the corner of their season. They had a good run at Phoenix going. They just got to put it all together. Got to put the entire race together, get that good top 10, get that good top 5, and get that momentum going. And I think they're starting to head in that right direction with that 23-11 team. So those are my favorites, my underdogs and long shots. Let's go back to that Justin Haley comment that I was making. If we go back to race 3 preview for when we were doing the Homestead preview, I said that the last time prior to Michael McDowell and Christopher Bell winning back-to-back races was 1999. That is actually incorrect. It was 2019. Alex Bowman at Chicagoland and Justin Haley at Daytona. I did want to bring that correction up because I'm sure somewhere down the line somebody's going to watch that video and go, no, that's not true. You don't know your facts. I did miss that in my research, so I apologize. And when I was listening to a podcast, and it escapes me whose podcast I was listening to. I can't remember if it was Scene Vault podcast or Let's Go Racing with David Starr, but it was one of those two, and that fact come up, and I was like, I have to double check that because are they wrong? But no, prior to this year, 2019, so there's a 2-year gap there, or a year and a half really, between back-to-back first-time winners. Then you had to go back to 1999, then all the way back to 1970. So it's not an infrequent, it is a pretty infrequent occurrence, but it does happen. So no real surprises in the lineup. Austin Cindric will make his second career cup start. Looking at row 20 here, he starts 39th. Of course, he had a good run at Daytona and was taken out in that last lap crash. Tyler Reddick starts in 29th. Ryan Newman 28th. Again, there's not a lot of surprises. I think this metrics is, as much as I don't like the metric system of qualifying, outside of Cindric starting 33rd or 39th, he's driving car 33, of course. Outside of him starting 39th, most everybody's lined up where they probably would have qualified at, in truth be known. Maybe a few in the front would be jumbled. Maybe a few in the middle would be jumbled. And for you guys that like your manufacturer's information, I did not get the manufacturer win data for this track, but the starting lineup, 18 Chevrolets, 16 Fords, and 5 Toyotas. So the odds are always in favor of Chevy and Ford if you look at it that way, but I think Toyota's got some pretty strong characters up front with Hamlin, well, with just the JGR team in general. So any of those four guys could pull off a win. So I'm looking forward to this race. Atlanta's always a great track to watch a race. I've never been there, but the races have always been exciting for the most part. Of course, 2000 and 2001, you had some really great photo finishes in those in the spring races. Go back on YouTube and check those out too. What was it, the Cracker Barrel 500? So look up the finish of the 2000 and the 2001 Cracker Barrel 500s. Those were photo finishes. Also had a lot of exciting action as far as accidents. I know some of you guys are, just amazed. Steve Grissom had a bad crash in the 97 Prime Star 500. That was the last race on the old configuration. So check, excuse me, check that one out as well. Some of my favorite races, again, I mentioned them earlier. The 1986 Motorcraft 500, 1987 Motorcraft 500. Even though the duration of these races, it seems like a marathon compared to what these guys do today, was a very, very competitive race in both of those. Morgan Shepherd won the 86 and Ricky Rudd won the 87 editions of those races. Some controversy, some scoring issues, just lots of action, and very different from the way that you see NASCAR today. So go check out those races. A couple of my favorites personally. So anyway, that will wrap up the preview of the 63rd Annual Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. And tomorrow, like we said, we'll be back to do the baseball cards that found during flea markets in Tennessee on our vacation. So thanks again for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I had to think about it for a minute what day it was, because it's real early in the morning right now. So this will drop probably Saturday afternoon. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great day, guys.